Goodbye and Good Riddance by Juice WRLD. Released in 2018, this is his debut studio album, and it's pretty good. Now, since this is his debut album, the production is very amateurish. The lyrics are a little cringe, and they're corny sometimes. The skits on this album, I think, are a complete waste of time to listen to. For me, I always skip skits, but like these, when I was listening to the album again, I was like, these just aren't good. They have a weird beat. They're very corny, and it really dates the album back to 2018 when this was released and the sad boy era, all the depressed music. And so I'm starting off with something negative, but I actually really like this album. This is Juice's first album, and it really put him into the limelight, I guess, with songs like Lucid Dreams and All Girls Are the Same. Admittedly, it's not my favorite album of his. I don't really go back to it that often, but I still think it's pretty good. I'll just say it. I think it's a great album and a really solid start that Juice had. Now, before I talk on the tracks, I just wanted to address the features. There was only one feature, Lil Uzi Vert on Wasted, and I'm not talking about the anniversary edition with Lil Uzi on the Lucid Dreams remix. And so this is just the base album that was released in 2018. Lil Uzi, I think he's really good on Wasted. I like Wasted. It's one of my favorite songs on this album. But I will say, while Uzi and Juice do have a good, whatever the word, I'm blanking right now on the word. They're good, they work together well. But if for some reason, it's kind of weird that Uzi is like the middle verse. It's squished in between two Juice verses. And the way like Uzi fades out, it's really amateur. Like you listen to this album and that song specifically, and you're like, wow, the quality of his music has greatly increased since Goodbye and Good Riddance. And that is really probably my biggest flaw with this album, is how amateur it is. And I'm not going to take away too much from it, because I don't think it was like worked in with as much care as like Death Race for Love or Legends Never Die, when this was like, now I could be wrong here. I'm assuming that it was mainly him working on it. Like he made most of the beats, or he got some other people to do beats, and he did most of the work, because before this album came out, he wasn't very famous. He wasn't rich. He couldn't afford like all of that stuff. Now, that could all be wrong. Please correct me in the comments. But that's what I assume. So I'm going to give some slack on the production. But this album consists of 17 songs, 3 of them being skits. So we're going to say 14. And they're all pretty good. I think they're all good. I don't listen to all of them a lot. There are some that I think are pretty bad, like Long Gone, I think is the worst song on this album. Some people say that Lucid Dreams is, and I just can't get behind that. I understand Lucid Dreams, All Girls Are the Same are overplayed to oblivion. And so whenever they come on, I usually skip them. But once every so long, I might listen to it and I'm like, wow, this is a good song. Maybe if it didn't have 2 billion streams on Spotify and I hear it and I heard it every day in 2018, then I'd probably sit through it all the time. But I get it. I can understand they're overplayed, but they are definitely not the worst songs on this album. Now, I will say that a lot of the tracks are a little boring, and they're all kind of repetitive. Most of the songs are about drugs and heartbreak. We've heard it 1,000 different times, I've covered some other heartbreak albums. It's all the same. There's no real story connecting any of these songs. And Juice doesn't have the best lyricism on this album. While the lyrics are decent, they're not bad. They're not like cringe. Some of them are a little cringy and like very dated, but they're not like horrible. Like they're not unbearable to listen to. And for the most part, they're pretty good. I think a lot of people just heard like All Girls Are the Same and think that's all that Juice makes, which is not true. Some of the songs on this album are very similar to that type of song he was doing, like the incelish type man baby things, like All Girls Are the Same, man. I don't think all the songs on this album, and definitely not, and like past this album, he kind of really grows out of that, which is good. We'll talk on that later if I ever cover any more of his albums. But I'm getting off the rails. Some of the songs are a little boring, mostly towards the end half. I think it kind of falls off a little bit with like End of the Road, Long Gone, Hurt Me. I think are a little basic. I think really the middle is the best, from like Wasted to Candles. I think, or no, Wasted to Scared of Love. I think that's like the best part of this album. But my favorite songs on this album are Wasted, Lean With Me, Candles, and Scared of Love. Those I think just are the most different. I like Armed and Dangerous and Black and White, but they're very out of place in this album. You know, those, while they do talk about like drugs and stuff, they're very upbeat. When Armed and Dangerous comes right after Wasted, and then it's Wasted, Armed and Dangerous, Black and White, and then Lean With Me. They're very out of place because Wasted and Lean With Me are quite depressing songs. And of course, Juice is known for his freestyling. Now, I know Death Race for Love was all freestyle, but I don't know if this album was. I think some of the songs were. I've seen videos of like him doing the second verse to All Girls Are the Same and other songs. And so I'm not going to say that this is all freestyling. If it is, that's very impressive. Obviously, Death Race for Love is very impressive because that was made in like, I think 2 weeks, I've heard somewhere. That could be wrong. Correct me if I am wrong. I don't know. Not canon, whatever. Now, I think this is a great debut album, and I personally believe that his music just got better from this Saints. Now, Legends Never Die and Fighting Demons were not the best. I don't think they were better than Goodbye and Good Riddance, but Death Race for Love is really good. And so, with all that being said, let's get on to the ranking. I'm going to give Goodbye and Good Riddance by Juice WRLD an 8 out of 10. Now, you can take this with a grain of salt. I am a huge Juice fan. I not as much as I used to be, but I used to listen to him all the time. And so this album kind of holds a special place in my heart. I don't want to brag, but I did listen to this album before Lucid Dreams became like one of the biggest songs in the world. And so a little humble brag right there. But this album is really good, aside from the production issues and the amateurish vocals, mixing, the corny interludes. I think this album is really good. Thankfully, the interludes aren't mixed into the album. It's really 1 at the beginning and 2 at the end. For some reason, they kind of like switch around depending on what version of the album you go to. It's really weird. I think they should just remove them. But this album is really good. I recommend a listen. I feel like if you haven't listened to this album and you're into rap music, that's kind of weird. I feel like everybody's heard this album, whether you like it or not. I was tempted to give this a 7 because there are some issues and some things I don't like about it, but I think an 8 is a great place for this album. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Sorry this review is on the shorter side of things. Comment down albums that you want me to review, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.